Good day, children. Today I am going to teach you next lesson of the sensory receptors. I taught you number of lessons related to sensory receptors in early sessions. You studied characteristics of certain sensory receptors and the different categories of the sensory receptors, and also some of the sensory receptors found in the human. One of the important sensory receptor that you study is the human eye. In early lesson, I explained you part of the human eye. Today, I am going to explain the rest of the human eye along with the functions, and one of the important sensory receptor that you need to study, human skin. As we studied earlier, you remember structure of the human eye. So I am going to remind you some of the important points very quickly before I move into the functions of the human eye. So as you see here, it's a spherical structure. So it is found in the eye socket. It contains extrinsic muscles which are attached to the eye socket, some of the bones in the around the eye. It contains number of layers, the outer fibrous layer, the middle vascular layer, and the inner nervous layer. So you know the parts of each of these layers which are actually differentiated into different areas of the eye. As you see, outer fibrous layer consists of sclera and cornea. Middle vascular layer contains choroid, ciliary body, and the iris. Inner nervous layer is the retina. We explained all these in detail in the earlier lesson. So I explained about the basic structure of the human eye. So as you see here, so there are a number of layers, right? So the outermost layer which contain sclera and the cornea. Sclera, white and opaque structure, so which is actually connects anteriorly with the cornea. Cornea is the part which refracts the light. So which you can see here, this is the cornea. So you can see this area, this is the cornea. So then light refracts through this, so that is the function, and enter into the anterior chamber. So that is present between the lens and the cornea. Then you study about the second layer, which is a very important part, choroid, ciliary body, and the iris. Choroid, thin pigmented layer rich with blood vessels, which is found in the lateral and back posterior part of the eye. So that is actually the second layer, part of the second layer. It is consists of smooth muscle fibers at the anterior region, which is called ciliary muscle. So the sensory epithelial cells are present, which are actually pigmented. That is the reason for giving this specific color to the eye. Then this actually show how these actually arrange on the anterior side of the eye. Then the lens is also very important structure which is important for refraction of the light. In addition to the cornea, this is another important, very important structure which actually has the ability to change its convexity and the refraction power. So therefore, this part is very important. The lens is a transparent disc, so through which the light rays move through. It is actually made up of protein enclosed with transparent capsule. Lens is a biconvex structure which has the ability to focus light on the retina. Aqueous humor and the vitreous humor. So these actually is situated, aqueous fluid is situated in between the lens and the cornea. So that is the anterior region of the eye. Vitreous body is situated behind the lens, so which is colorless, transparent, jelly-like structure. So that is actually have more refractive power compared to the aqueous fluid. So these actually give certain protection to the eye and also certain shape to the different parts of the eye. So then we are moving into the retina. So this is the innermost layer, so which is called the nervous layer, which consisted of three major parts. As you see here, pigmented layer. So now you can see the choroid. This is the choroid, right? Inner to the choroid. So if you see this particular structure in the eye, yellow color line of the retina. So you can see three major areas in the retina. Pigmented layer, which contain an epithelial cell layer, which has the ability to absorb excess light, which actually coming through this way. You can see the pathway of light, which actually coming through the cornea, aqueous humor, then through the pupil, into the lens, vitreous humor, then deposited or form the image on the retina. So this is the side of light entering into the retina. First, once it is moved through, so the sum of the light absorbed by the certain group of cells present in here, which are called photoreceptors. Photoreceptors are two types. You can see cones, rods. They have different shapes also. Now you can see second layer. First layer is the pigmented epithelium. Second layer is the photoreceptors. Then the third layer, you can see these are neurons. Some of the neurons, there are actually different types of neurons found in the retina. You can see this particular type, this is called bipolar neurons, right? Then next group here, there's a structure called, this one is known as the ganglion cells, right? Those are the things that these are also part of neurons. Now you can see three layers, pigmented layer, second one photoreceptors, the third one neurons. Now all the neurons forms nerve fibers and produces the optic nerve. These are the parts of the retina. So light enters from this side and moved into the retina, and photoreceptors absorb light. So that is how the photoreceptors get initiated or stimulated. So there are two types, as I explained, cones and rods. So I'll explain the function and the activity of the photoreceptors later. So this is the structure of the retina. Pigmented cell layer, photoreceptors, and neurons. Then the retina, so this is what I have explained is given there. Outer pigmented, middle photoreceptive, inner layer neurons. So the retina is thickest at the back. At the center, this area is the posterior region of the eye. So you can see this area is the retina. This is the retina. This is the choroid. This chocolate brown area is the choroid. Now retina at the back contain a certain area with a small depression. This area is called the macula lutea and the depression is called fovea centralis. So the important thing in this particular region is the macula lutea and the depression mainly. Depression in this particular macula lutea contain only cones. Fovea centralis contains only cones. That is the important thing related to that, right? Okay, this is the place where the most of the images are formed. Then you can see two cell types actually I have shown again here. So you can see the microscopic views of the rods and cones also, right? So they are falsely colored. Right? These actually structures, if you see, they are specialized cells, sensory receptor cells. Then you can see rods and cones. Rods and cones contain number of regions, cell body, outer segments, and within the segments there are certain disc-like structures. Can you see these? These are discs within the outer segment. This part is present towards the forward, towards the vitreous humor, towards the middle region of the eye. So this area contains synaptic terminals. When the light is focused, so these cells get stimulated and changes the voltage. Voltage difference is occurred. So that makes the action potential which transmit from this particular cell to the next cell, which is the bipolar cells. Right? To accept the light rays or the different light rays, so these actually cells contain a specialized pigments which are called visual pigments. Two different types of visual pigments are present in two different types of cells. Rods are having rhodopsines. Rods are having the visual pigment rhodopsin, and the cones are having photopsin. These are two different pigments. They change their structure when the special type of light rays are absorbed by these cells. Now, what you need to know, rhodopsin dissociates at low light intensities, especially during the night time, right? Low light intensities, therefore, these actually rhodopsin, the change in the molecular structure of the rhodopsin produces the action potential which provides the person to see in the dark. But if you see the photopsin, photopsin change its molecular structure during this process in high light intensities. So during the daytime, so the person can see the daytime vision and also color vision can be obtained. So the different colors of the objects can be identified due to this presence of photopsin. There are three types of cones related to three basic colors: red cones, green cones, and the blue light absorbing cones, which actually gives the optimal response when they absorb that particular type of light rays and the wavelengths. That is how the photoreceptor cells get activated. So then I am going to explain you the function of each part of this structure of the eye. Now I explain all the parts and the positions, and here all these parts of the eye, location and composition, and the functions are tabulated. This is very important for you to memorize the everything in a table, so you can see everything at once when you see the table. So this is easy for you to memorize the structure, composition, and the function of the different parts of the eye. So as you see, sclera, so those actually I don't need to explain again. So I'm explaining only the function. Sclera protects the eye and maintains its shape. Cornea, which is found front part of the sclera, transparent, bends, so they refracts the light to help focus it onto the retina. Aqueous humor, so watery solution present in the front part of the eye, maintains the shape of the front chamber of the eye. So if you go back to the diagram, then you can see these parts again. If you have, if you've forgotten anything, any part, just move back to the diagram and see. Iris, found in front of the lens, it contains circular and radial muscles and are pigmented, controls the size of the pupil. This is very important to control the amount of light entering into the eye. So it adjusts the amount of light entering the eye. Then we move the pupil. It's a hole present in the iris. Hole in the center of the iris allows light to enter the eye. Its size can be changed according to the amount of light in the environment. Ciliary muscles, so they are circular and radial muscles which are actually found in front of the lens. Adjust the focusing of light by changing the shape of the lens. So this is very important for accommodation of the eye. So that I explain you a little later. Suspensory ligament, so that is another important structure to change the convexity of the lens, right? Contraction and relaxation of ciliary muscles tightens or loosens the ligaments. This changes the shape of the lens. Lens, flexible, transparent. This shape can be changed according to the ciliary muscles, relaxation and contraction. So it adjusts the focusing. Vitreous humor maintain the shape of the rear chamber of this rear chamber and also support the lens. This is actually important to keep the retina intact with the choroid. That is very important. Retina, so this actually produces certain pressure. Vitreous humor produce certain pressure inside the vitreous body or the rear part of the eye, which keep the choroid, the retina intact with the choroid. That is very important for the person to see. Retina found at the back of the eye contains light sensitive cells, detection of light. So then you have fovea. Most light is focused onto here. It gives the most detailed vision or greatest acuity is given by fovea centralis. I told you it contains only cones. Blind spot. So that is the part which do not contain any sensory receptor cells. So which actually provides the area for optic nerve to move back. So not sensitive to light, no red rods or cones. So that is how you need to remember the structure and function of the eye. Then we moved into the important part, accommodation of the eye. So we see different objects. Distant objects can be seen. At the same time, we would be able to see the objects which are present very close to close to eye. So in this particular occasion, so the eye needs to be adjusted. So to see the near objects, if the person is looking at something in distance and suddenly if he sees something very close, so the eye should be accommodated. So that is what here, so the certain structures are important for accommodation of the eye. So you can see here, when the person is looking at a distance object, so the lens is pulled by this type of arrangement and it is attached with the ciliary muscles. Ciliary muscles are contracted. As a result, it moves away from the lens. So therefore, what happens, these ligaments tightens. So this lens pulls from all the sides. That is how it happens here. But when the person is looking near object, so what happens, ciliary muscles move towards the lens, and the suspensory ligament loosens and the lens get it normal convexity. So that is how it happens. So the accommodation is necessary for near vision. So then the other occasion you can see ciliary muscle relax, suspensory ligaments pulls against the lens become flatter. So that is how the light rays coming from the distant object is focused onto the retina. And here what happens, due to the lens becoming thicker and rounder, more refractions occur. Light rays refracts more and allowing the focusing the light on retina. So these are very important for you to understand the near vision and the distance vision. So this is explained here. You can see it more clearly. Relaxed state and accommodated. So you can see these are the suspensory ligaments. So they are loosened. Here suspensory ligaments, they are under tension. So that you can see the thickness of the lens is more, it becomes thinner. Accommodation of the eye. So what I have explained is given in point form here. Near vision focusing on near object. in near vision, the ciliary muscle contract, move in ciliary body inwards towards the lens. As a result, convexity of the lens increase due to the reduction of the pull of the successor ligaments. Thus, light waves from the near objects are focused on the retina. See, in a distant object, the opposite occurs. So, if you can remember one of these actually processes, you can automatically remember the second one. Monocular vision and the binocular vision. This is also important. Monocular vision is the vision, so when you see the object from one eye, it is called monocular vision. Monocular vision does not allow the person to see three-dimensional view. So therefore, we have two eyes which actually focused, which actually present in the front. So this is actually important to focus into the object at the same time. So therefore, we can see the object from both eyes. But in certain organisms like calves and some of the especially herbivores, if you say. Normally carnivores having this binocular vision. Now, in addition to human, the leopards, so you can see those are having the same, both eyes are at the same side. So therefore, they can have the three-dimensional view to certain extent. But in certain organisms, the eyes are present in two sides of the head. So they can actually, at once they can see only one side. So other eye used to see the other side. Therefore, they can't actually see the middle region in detail. But in our vision, so we can see so this is what we can see in the binocular vision. So when we are using the binocular, so you can obtain the binocular vision or the three-dimensional view. So these are the birds of prey have binocular vision. Binocular vision in human. So you can see here, left eye sees more on left side. Right eye see more on right side. But in the same time, left eye and the right eye has a certain area in the middle they can see using both eyes. So this is very important for person to get 3D vision. So all these images, all these three images sent into the occipital lobe of the cerebrum to identify the object. So it is identified as 3D structure. Depth also can be seen in this particular vision. Now I am going to explain you the importance of the binocular vision for human. So now here you can see, when a person is crossing a road, the person should know the vehicle which is actually reaching towards a person. So that assessment has to be done in order to judge the time that is necessary to pass or cross the road. So that is what we need. So we need actually speed, assessment of the speed of the vehicle, which is actually reaching towards us. So this is very important thing. So that is happened due to our binocular vision. So the relation to the distance, depth, height and width, we can assume the accurate time that is necessary to do certain things. For example, we can say these are certain things that you need your binocular vision. We need to know the speed. We have to judge the speed of the ball. So then we can actually reach to the ball. Okay? So these actually happen in always. We can see them in our day-to-day life. When we thread in a needle. So you can see here. So we need to know this is three-dimensional. Weave is very important. So we have to understand that. These are certain occasions that we use binocular vision in our day-to-day life. Then here we have the key points related to the sensory receptors that we study so far. Chemoreceptors detect the presence of chemicals. Thermoreceptors detect changes in the temperature. Mechanoreceptors detect mechanical forces. Photoreceptors detect light during vision. So therefore you can see sensory receptors are very important for the person's survival, right? So the survival of the human. Next we are going to study another important sensory receptor organ present in human body. That is the largest organ in our body. Human skin is also very important receptor, sensory receptor in the body, which actually have the ability to detect number of different stimuli in the environment. Now, first of all, I want to show you the structure of the human skin. This shows part of the human skin as different structures present within the skin. So there are two major parts. If I explain this, you can see the epidermis and the dermis. These are the two major parts. In addition to that, you can see number of different structures present within the human skin. So here you can see the hairs which actually come in through the skin, the epidermis, which actually originate in this region. So I'll explain these actually little by little, and then you can see good blood supply is there, nerves are there, right? So, and the lower region, there's another tissue we can find in the human skin, which is also, this is also very good sensory receptor. Now, basic structure and function of the human. Basic structure. Skin, as I explained, largest organ. So this has to be remembered. Two main parts, epidermis and dermis. Below the dermis, there is another area which is called subcutaneous layer. So which is actually contain fat tissue and also adipose tissue. Fat tissue and adipose tissue. Both are connective tissues which are found below the dermis. These are the major parts in human skin. Then this is how you need to draw the diagram. You need to know how to draw this part of this human skin. So you can draw it is as a 3D weave or 2D weave, doesn't matter, right? But major part has to be marked. These are the hypodermis or the subcutaneous layer. Then you can see the hair shaft. So those are important. Sweat glands, which actually starting from here, sweat glands, glandular part is here, and it is open into the surface of the skin by a pore. Then the blood capillaries, right? There are a large number of blood capillaries. Hair shaft is starting from the hair follicle. So then we have the sebaceous gland, another important gland, which is also found within the dermal region. But you can see those are originated from the epidermal region. So it is actually starting from epidermis and moved into the dermal region. Then in addition to this contain muscles also, arrector pili muscles. So these are the important things related to the human skin. When you are drawing this diagram, very simple diagram should be drawn containing all the parts. So then I am moving into the epidermis. That is the top region, topmost area. Epidermis, the outermost region of the skin, consists of stratified, keratinized, squamous epithelium. So these three words, stratified, keratinized, squamous epithelium. So you can see here, diagram of the microscopic view. Here you can see number of cell layers. So that's why we call it stratified. The surface layer contains squamous cells. That is the reason for naming it as a stratified, keratin containing squamous cells on the surface. And there's no blood supply to the epidermis, but cells gets nutrients and oxygen which are actually sent through the blood vessels in the dermis. Dermis, you know, it is actually dermis present below this. It contains blood vessels. So blood vessels, there's a supply of blood vessel into the dermis. So through these, by diffusion, these cells get nutrients and oxygen. So this area, the stratified squamous epithelium is, thickness is different in different parts of the body. So if you say the palms, fingers and sole of the foot contain more thick regions compared to the rest. Then it will explain of the structure of the epidermis. Several layers, as I explained. Deepest layer is known as germinative layer. This is called germinative layer. This has the ability to produce new cells by mitosis. It produces new cells, but these cells gradually changes its shapes towards the top. Now you can see, gradually the shapes changes. The living nature changes. The cells actually in the topmost regions are dead cells. So therefore, cells on the surface are flat, thin, non-nucleated and dead. And another important thing is, this germinative layer contain melanocytes. Melanocytes secretes melanin which actually present within cells. So the melanin is a protein, so which actually gives the specific color to the epidermis. In addition to that, keratin is another important substance secreted by these cells, so which is a fibrous protein. When the keratins are deposited, cell becomes dead. So that is why the cells gradually becomes dead towards the surface. And the surface cells are always rubbed off and removed. So, and the new cells are produced from the germinative layer. Germinative layer. This is we call germinative layer. This is the germinative layer, this one. So there's a scientific name for that one. So just germinative layer will be enough for you. Next, this is what you can see, the melanocytes, so which produce melanin granules, which gives color. In addition to melanin, so the people have darker skin because of they are actually having more melanin in it, but some people have less melanin, so therefore the lighter skin. So, but in addition to that, the carotene present within the dermal region, carotene dissolved in fat, also gives certain color. Blood supply, good blood supply also gives certain color. Microscopic view of the stratified squamous epithelium. This is what we call stratified squamous epithelium. So, this word here given, keratinized epithelium. This area is the rest of the epithelium. So, this stratified squamous keratinized epithelium is shown in this area. Then the dermis. Dermis is composed of areolar connective tissue. So, as you know, so you study areolar tissue or as the loose connective tissue which contain collagen fibers, then elastin fibers. So, these are interwoven in the matrix and the cells are present. Cells actually secretes collagen and also elastin, so and other substances. There are three different types of cells are present in this region. Fibroblast, as you see in areolar tissue or the loose connective tissue, fibroblast, macrophages, mast cells, which you study under the animal tissues. Then these are some of the diagrams of the fibroblast. So, it actually shows the function of the fibroblast also. Macrophage, so these are important for defense mechanism. This is fat cells. So, this is a fat tissue with the areolar tissue surrounding. So, this is a fat cell or adipocyte. So, you can see the fat globule inside. Okay, these are mast cells, right? A specialized white blood cell. Then the dermis of the skin contain, in addition to those connective tissue, it contains blood and lymph vessels, sensory nerve endings, sweat glands as earlier. This is the sweat gland, okay, sebaceous gland, and then the arrector pili muscles, sensory receptors. You can see number of different types. So, this is the important part related to the sensory reception by the skin. Pacinian corpuscles. Then you can see Ruffini corpuscles. Then here free nerve endings can be seen. Merkel discs. So, all these different types of sensory receptors, nerve endings, specialized nerve endings can be found in the skin. So, which are found in a dermal region. So, you need to remember that. So, specialized structure which actually detect different changes in the atmosphere. So, some are for temperature changes, some are for vibration, touch, pressure. So, likewise, any of these changes in the environment can be detected using these particular sensory receptors found in the dermal region. That is why we study skin as a sensory organ. So, these are some diagrams to show you sensory receptors in the skin, Krausen bulbs, Meissner's corpuscles. So, these actual position of these, the receptors are also changed in the skin. So, according to that, the reception that get may be different. Functions of the human skin. So, this is also you study when we explain in certain things. Protection. So, stratified squamous epithelium gives certain barrier for entry of microorganisms. So, chemicals, right, prevent dehydration. So all these actually important related to the protection. Then keratinized epithelium is waterproof. It doesn't allow water moved into the inner regions. Protect deep and more delicate structure due to the waterproof nature here. Specialized immune cells which can phagocytose foreign invasion. There are specialized mast cells, for example. Macrophages present in the dermis provide certain immunity, innate immunity. We call it innate immunity. So it's not a specific immunity. So that is actually provided by certain immune cells found within the dermis. Melanin pigments protect against the harmful effect of UV radiation. So that is important for especially the people who live in tropical regions. Functions of the human skin, regulation of body temperature. The outside temperature in the environment is high. We sweat. So sweating actually removes the inner temperature, core temperature. So the body temperature is removed by sweating. Sweating, not only that, so the evaporation sweats cools the body surface. Increase in blood flow through the skin, capillaries and dilating arterioles. So that is how the evaporation sweat cools the body surface. Core energy, core heat, body core heat is actually taken into the surface through skin capillaries and the blood vessels. When the body temperature falls beyond the normal temperature, blood vessels constricted, right? So the blood flow is reduces to the surface, thereby reduces the evaporation of sweat. So the sweating is reduced. So then the contraction of erector pili muscles actually provide a certain amount of energy. Small amount of energy is actually produced by erector pili muscles. So that is regulation of body temperature. Cutaneous sensation. So as we see, sensory receptors are there. So then the synthesis of vitamin D. So that is also a function. Excretion. Skin serves as minor excretory organ. Sweat actually, with the sweat, sodium chloride, urea and some aromatic substances such as garlic are moved out. So that is important. So that is a kind of excretion. So therefore, these are the functions of the human skin. I put certain questions for you to answer. So there are MCQs, A, B, C, D, E questions which actually come in to your exam paper. So quite a difficult questions. You need to have a better knowledge to answer these questions. So the answers are also provided. So if you understood the lesson properly, it is not difficult to answer these questions. Which of the following structures in the human skin of man is are? So you need to actually find more than one, sometimes one or more than one answers for that. Sensitive to touch and pressure. So if you go through the lesson properly, so you can memorize Meissner's corpuscles are important for touch and slight pressures. Ruffini corpuscles are for detecting the high temperature. Free nerve endings, some free nerve endings. So free nerve endings actually carry out many functions in the body. So they are actually sensitive to temperature. So they are sensitive to touch, right? And some specialized free nerve endings are important for detecting the pain. Therefore, free nerve endings can be taken as a correct one. Pacinian corpuscles, so these are actually for the strong pressures. These are also for strong pressures. Therefore, but Krause's end bulbs of Krause's, so which actually normally used for detecting low temperatures. low temperature. Therefore, the answer would be A, C and D. So this comes under as the second answer in your answer page. Which of the following statement regarding human skin is incorrect? So you need to find the incorrect answer here. All 4 types of basic tissues can be seen in dermis. This is a correct answer. So if you study the basic tissue types in the body, so there are epidermal tissues, so which can be seen, stratified squamous epithelium, epidermal. Then you have the connective tissues, areolar tissue. So in the dermis. Human skin means epidermis and dermis. Then if you take the muscular tissue, that is also found. Now this is connective, epidermal, the nervous tissue also found, nerves are there. And the muscular tissue also found, arrectopili muscles, for example. Therefore, all 4 basic tissue types are found. So you need to have better knowledge to answer this question. Excrete salts and urea, so we studied that. Nerve endings do not penetrate into the epidermis. So this is do not penetrate to the epidermis is wrong. So certain, the small, very fine nerve endings moved into the lower regions of the epidermis, but not the blood vessels. Therefore, this is incorrect answer. Epidermis, stratified squamous epithelium containing glands. Epidermis doesn't have a gland, but the dermis contain. If you draw the diagrams, when you draw in diagrams, so what we draw is, so these are the glands. Glands are starting from the epidermis, but they are moved into this is epidermis. This is epidermis, this is dermis. Glands are found within the dermis. Therefore, this answer is also wrong. And the synthesizes vitamin D, this is a function. Therefore, the answer would be the C and D, the 4th answer. This concludes the sensory receptors in grade 13 biology, which comes under 5.6 competency and 5.67 competency level. Until we meet you from another lesson in next series of grade 13 biology, stay safe and stay healthy. Goodbye.